Hey everybody, it's George. Welcome back. I hope you're doing great wherever you are in the world. As I'm preparing, and as we are preparing to move back to the United States, a flood and flurry of emails and great comments are being sent my way. And I probably have 9 or 10 people just over the last couple of days sent a similar theme. They asked, okay, you moved to Portugal, you're still working. You said you're going to go back to the U.S. because you still have another 7 to 10 years of working in corporate probably before you retire, and you are done. So the question becomes, well, when you retire, where are you going to move to? Many people have asked, are you going to be moving back to Portugal? Will you be moving somewhere else? Will you be staying in the United States? And boy, that's a loaded question. And it's a great question. So I thought I would give you our experience here. And I can't look into the crystal ball or the magic 8 ball of the future because I don't know what we will do. But our experience here is wanting to move to Portugal and always wanting to live in Europe. And when we were looking in 2017 and 18 and moving in 2019, Portugal, again, very affordable, very friendly for expats. Jobs not as easy, but had things lined up that way work-wise. Access to Europe, which was it checked all the boxes that we wanted, and so we made the move, and we were forever grateful for being able to be guests in the country for as long as we have been guests in the country, and got to learn, I'll say, the good and the bad of living in another country for almost a 5 year period of time. I think that's a good enough period to be able to determine what you like and dislike, or come up with some pretty strong opinions, good and bad, about where you live, wherever that is. And you don't have to move to another country to do that. You can move to another city, you can move to another state or province or district and get that. But it gave us a good barometer. And as we're moving back, so I'll answer the question this part. When we retire, would we move back to Portugal? Probably not. Part of that is just what's gone on recently with the changing government, some of the rules and regulations. Portugal is not alone in this, but there's more European countries that are becoming more, I guess, populist in nature. I don't know if that's the right word. I apologize if I'm using the word incorrectly. I apologize about that. But more focusing inward and not necessarily focusing on immigration, things of that nature. So because of that, unless things change, which things certainly could, if things change in 7 to 10 years, might be a possibility. But we also feel like we've lived in Portugal, we've done it, and we wouldn't necessarily come back. That's not a knock on Portugal, it's just we've been here and we wouldn't necessarily come back. That's okay, that's all right. Being here in Portugal, we looked at either before we retired or after we were retired going to Italy. So we spent several months, probably 8 months of time in 5 years, in and around Italy. We spent a lot of time in Italy trying to figure out where we may live as the next step. Northern Italy, like Como, middle Florence, Rome, Puglia, like Bari, even Sicily. Trying to get a feel for the different regions, different cultures within those regions. We love Italy, but the bureaucracy, I think if people thought bureaucracy in Portugal was bad, it's nothing. It's tame compared to what we've heard about the bureaucracy in Italy. But as much as we love Italy, I don't know if we would necessarily want to move there when we're retired. That may just not be in the cards. So to really answer the question, ultimately, or if we can do this, we'd like to have a place in the United States because family is always going to be there, and most likely they're not going to move internationally. So we want to be within, let's say, a 3 to 4 hour flight to be able to see family that are spread out throughout the U.S. for the most part. So it might be a 5 hour flight. So we're probably going to have a place there. And instead of buying property overseas, like we bought this property, We wouldn't do that again. We would probably go wherever we can do the 90 days with our passport without having to get a special visa and go spend, let's say, 85 days in Italy and then go back to the United States. Go spend 85 days, come back to Portugal and Spain, maybe do some of France, and then go back to the United States. We probably, if there's something that we learned in our time here, is that we realized that we probably, well, one, we probably couldn't afford two properties, one in the US and one internationally. And two, we'd always want to feel like coming to that one property internationally every year, or every other year. I don't know if we want to do that. We have a lot of the world to still see, and we don't necessarily want to be tied down. So if anything, we come back to Portugal, but we wouldn't live here permanently. Same thing for Italy. Probably live permanently in the US and then go spend 80 to 90 days a few times a year going around the world and seeing the world. And that, in our bucket list, best hopes and dreams, if everything works out, that's what we're looking to do. So the greatest thing about moving is it taught us some of that. Taught us a lot about ourselves and about living internationally, living away from family, kind of restarting again. But I want to finish by saying again, when we say that we wouldn't move back to Portugal, it's not a negative. It's, again, like I said, we've lived there. I grew up in Michigan, in the United States. I can't see myself moving back there. Been to Arizona. Now we are going back because we have a lot of family back there, sons back there. But when we retire, that doesn't mean that we're staying there. We may look for a small town and on a lake someplace and enjoy it and get away from the heat, especially the summer heat in Phoenix. We'll see. But the reason I wanted to make this video is several of you had asked, if we were going to do this again, or when you're retired, where would you go to? And as much as we keep scoping things out, we're going to keep track of what the laws are and what the regulations are and what some of the social climate and political climate is around immigrants in Europe. We do love Europe. We do love lots of countries here. But it depends on what the tides are, the economic and the political, I guess more the political than the economic tides are towards outsiders. And if that, becomes a good thing in most places, that's great. But things are starting to get a little weird. So we're going to probably just head home and we'll wait and see. And we've got 7 to 10 years to go. So still got a long time to figure out where we may end up living ultimately when we retire. Chances are it's going to be in someplace in the U.S. and then spend 2-3 months someplace here and there throughout the year. Thank you for all of you that asked that question. Wanted to give you an honest answer about it so that I wasn't beating around the bush. And again, thank you so much for taking the time to watch and enjoy your travels.